Okay, let's unpack this. If you own property on Oak Island, North Carolina, you are fighting a constant battle with the environment.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got the salty air, that sandy soil, and of course the occasional hurricane threat.
Right.
But before you even pick up a shovel, you have to grapple with the rule book.
And the rule book here is, well, it's dense. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the Oak Island fence regulations, looking right at their Unified Development Ordinance, or UDO.
The UDO.
Our mission is to be your shortcut. We're going straight to the source material to pull out the most important and, frankly, the most restrictive bits of knowledge you need to start your project the right way.
Because honestly, getting caught out on a setback or a height violation,
Yeah,
that is the single most expensive mistake you could make.
it really is.
And this is where Port City Fence, as a family-owned operation, really earns its stripes. We're here to handle that regulatory headache so you can focus on enjoying your coastal home, not arguing with the town planner.
To set the tone immediately, let's start with the most fascinating restriction, and the one that really defines Oak Island versus other towns.
And what's that?
The oceanfront limitation. Oak Island is absolutely non-negotiable on preserving views.
That's the hook, right? We're talking sea turtles, public access, and view sheds that are protected by law.
Exactly.
So while a general residential lot might get a standard 6-foot fence for privacy,
Yeah, the normal privacy sense.
if you're oceanfront residential, that maximum height just drops instantly to 4 feet.
4 feet. It's a remarkable mandate. That 4-foot height limit is a planning non-negotiable designed to, and I'm quoting here, preserve views of the ocean.
Wow.
This isn't just about aesthetics, it's about the coastal environment being prioritized over, intense property enclosure. It dictates everything.
I have to ask, for those homeowners on the oceanfront who really want some sense of privacy, is there any provision for a taller fence? Or is the ocean view just paramount? 4 feet is the absolute hard stop.
4 feet is the hard stop for the enclosure facing the ocean. If you want privacy, you have to build inward, away from that ocean side.
Oh.
The code makes it very clear they will sacrifice your enclosure size to maintain that view corridor for everyone. That's just the nature of building on a barrier island.
That level of restriction really highlights how critical it is to get the paperwork right from the start. So, before we get to the steel and wood, let's tackle that bureaucratic hurdle.
The paperwork.
I imagine the town just wants to know who's doing what. What's the permit and application requirement?
Assume a permit is required. Always.
Just assume, yes.
Fences are categorized as accessory structures, and they need a zoning permit to verify compliance with things like setbacks and height standards. You have to contact the Town of Oak Island Development Services,
Okay.
either the Planning or Permitting Division, to verify the current UDO standards and get the application.
And for those listening who want to check on that immediately, the source materials gave us the direct contacts. You can call them at 910-278-5024 or shoot an email to permits@ocasislandenc.gov.
And what's fascinating here is that the application itself is where most DIY projects fail.
Really?
Not because they don't know how to install a post, but because they can't provide the required documentation accurately.
So what exactly do they need to submit besides the form itself?
You have to submit a comprehensive site plan or sketch. And this isn't, a casual drawing on a napkin.
Right.
It has to clearly show 5 key things.
Yeah.
1, your property lines, and you really want this verified by an official survey.
Okay.
2, the location and precise dimensions of all existing structures. 3, the proposed location, length, and height of the fence.
Got it.
4, the fence type and materials you plan to use. And 5, the fence's location relative to any street rights-of-way and easements.
That sounds like a geometry class and a legal review all rolled into one.
It kind of is.
You mentioned property lines and easements. That's so critical. That's why we have our office team, Lisa and Laura. Lisa, she specializes in permits and town coordination. She's the one who runs point with development services to make sure those site plans are precise and complete the first time.
Because if that application is wrong, you're right back at the beginning. You could lose weeks.
Oh, easily.
Verifying property lines and understanding easements is the absolute foundation. If the documentation is fuzzy, no responsible contractor should ever start digging.
Okay, so let's move from the paperwork to the physical restrictions on your lot height allocation. We already hit the 4-foot oceanfront rule, but let's just reiterate the general rule.
For sure. General residential districts typically allow a maximum of 6 feet.
6 feet. Your standard backyard privacy fence.
Exactly. And crucially, the code specifies that height is always measured from the actual adjoining level of finished grade. So if your yard slopes,
Your fence height has to adjust with it.
it does, to meet the maximum at every single point.
And while most of our listeners are residential, I do want to briefly touch on the commercial nuances the source provided.
Good idea.
In CLD districts, you might see opaque fencing up to 6 feet, or even, heavy-duty chain link up to 10 feet. But in the central business districts, the rules completely flip.
That's right. Solid fences have to be tucked way behind the primary building line. They cannot, under any circumstances, obscure the main facade from the street. It's all about maintaining a walkable, visible commercial corridor.
But back to homeowners, because this is where it gets really tricky. Let's talk about the front yard puzzle,
Ah, yes, the infamous setback rule.
often called the street right-of-way trap.
It truly is a trap because it forces homeowners to adjust their entire front yard design. The rule is firm. No fence exceeding 4 feet in height is permitted within 25 feet of any street right-of-way.
And that's measured from your front property line. Right.
Correct. From your property line, not the curb.
25 feet. I mean, that is a significant chunk of yard for a coastal lot. So you're saying, if I want a 6-foot fence for privacy, I have to push it 25 feet back from my property line.
Precisely. And that's where you see that dual height system come in. The only exception is that fences 4 feet or less can be built up to the street right-of-way line,
Okay.
provided they don't violate the even stricter corner lot visibility rules. And those usually mean nothing over 3 feet high in that immediate sight triangle at an intersection.
So the key insight here is the costly mistake, ignoring that 25-foot line.
Mm-hmm.
You might need a 4-foot fence material in the front third of your property, and then you have to transition to a 6-foot fence material for the back.
It requires some thoughtful planning to make it look clean and intentional.
And that's where local context is just everything. We customize that fence line to comply while maximizing your usable private space.
And the setback rule is reinforced by the location restrictions. Fences up to 6 feet are generally allowed in your side or rear yards only. They are prohibited from extending toward the street beyond the foremost front corner of your main building.
Wait, walk me through that foremost front corner rule.
Mm-hmm.
What if I have one of those perpendicularly oriented lots where my side yard faces a street?
That's a classic coastal layout challenge. The 6-foot fence is permitted along that entire side yard unless it runs into that 25-foot street right-of-way setback.
So the setback always wins.
The 25-foot street setback always wins. That rule is repeated throughout the ordinance because it's the linchpin for preserving vehicle and pedestrian visibility.
Okay.
Let's move to the rules that truly impact structure and safety, starting with the invisible enemy.
Easements.
Easements.
An absolute no-go zone. The UDO is unequivocal on this. Fences cannot encroach into any utility easement.
And this is more than just a legal formality. This raises 2 critical issues. 1, safety during construction. You could hit a buried line. And 2, the financial risk. Utility companies or the town have the right to make you remove your fence if it obstructs their access.
At your own expense.
At your own expense. Imagine paying for a beautiful 6-foot fence only to get a notice telling you to tear it down.
That's terrifying. So the best practice has to be building just inside your own property line, far away from that easement.
Absolutely. You have to check the survey or plat for those easement locations before you even think about breaking ground.
Which makes me think of Scott, our estimator and master craftsman. He understands that building on Oak Island sandy soil means you have to dig deep to secure those footings.
You do.
And he always reviews that survey to make sure he's digging for stability and structural integrity outside any easement boundary. It's about protecting the homeowner's investment long-term.
For sure.
Now let's talk about another critical safety component. Mandatory pool fencing.
Non-negotiable for outdoor pools. This is governed by Section 7.11 of the UDO. If you have an outdoor pool 3 feet or deeper for most homes, 18 inches for daycares, it must be fully enclosed on all sides, not bounded by a permanent building wall.
And the height standards here are very specific, right?
They are. The pool fence minimum height is 4 feet and the maximum is 6 feet.
4 to 6.
And the gate is just as important. It has to be the same height, have a locking mechanism, and be kept securely fastened.
Makes sense.
Even the materials have a design standard. If you use something like chain link, the open spaces have to be tiny, no larger than 16 square inches to prevent climbing.
Which is why you often recommend wood or masonry for pool enclosures.
We do. They meet those strict design standards very easily.
Okay, finally, let's synthesize the biggest legal complexity. what I call the triple threat. You might have town UDO rules.
Mm-hmm.
You might have NC-CAMA rules because you're in an area of environmental concern. And you might have an HOA. What happens when they all conflict?
This is the most important principle from the source material. It clarifies that if the town UDO, the building code, and CAMA regulations conflict, the ultimate winner is typically the most restrictive standard.
That's a massive insight. So if the town says you can build a 6-foot fence, but your HOA says you can only build 5 feet.
The 5-foot rule applies.
And if CAMA says your design is fine, but the town says no.
The town rules apply.
Wow.
Exactly. Navigating that hierarchy is where expertise saves you huge amounts of time and potential penalties. We coordinate between all those conflicting codes to ensure compliance with the toughest standard, whichever one it is.
And as a final layer of complexity that often surprises homeowners, retaining walls.
The hidden complexity.
The source material notes that all retaining walls need a zoning permit. And if the wall is 4 feet or higher, it requires professionally engineered building plans.
And when you combine a fence on top of a retaining wall, you have a structural problem and a combined height problem. Fence height is measured from grade, but stacking a fence on a wall requires clarity from the town on how that total height is assessed. Plus, you need to be sure the wall can structurally support the added weight and wind load of the fence.
Especially in this coastal environment.
Absolutely. This requires consultation with the planning and building departments and probably a structural engineer.
Okay, let's unpack this final reality check before we wrap up. We've covered 4 feet, 6 feet, 25 feet, specific rules on where your fence can and cannot go. But the crucial caveat is that regulations can change faster than the tide in a dynamic environment like Oak Island.
This is why we, and the source material, strongly recommend that you always verify the very latest UDO rules.
Right.
Specifically sections 7.8, 7.1, and 2.17, and just contact the Development Services Department directly to confirm requirements for your specific project.
It sounds like accurate property surveys and contacting the town early are the two biggest keys.
They are the keys to a smooth, compliant, and stress-free project.
We keep this information as up-to-date as we can, and you can find the official resources links right on the PortCityFenceOfWilmington.com website, so you always have the final word straight from the town.
You know, the overarching theme here is that these rules aren't arbitrary. They exist to balance your property rights with safety, structural integrity, and the shared aesthetic of a fragile coastal environment.
It just requires a higher level of care.
It does. It requires that higher level of restriction to protect the community and ensure your investment actually lasts.
Don't waste weeks trying to decipher that UDO on your own, or risk building a fence only to have to tear it down because of a setback violation. We want you to focus on enjoying that beautiful coastal breeze. The Port City Fence team, Scott, who handles the expert craftsmanship, Lisa, who manages that intricate permit process, and Laura, who keeps the office running smoothly, is ready to help you navigate all this complexity.
Remember that our expertise ensures compliance with the most restrictive rule, whether it's the town, CAMA, or the HOA. Ready to start your project the right way? Don't delay. Call us at 910-232-5453, email portcityfence@hotmail.com, or visit portcityfenceofwilmington.com to schedule your free estimate today. And as you mull over those dimensions, remember this. In the complicated world of coastal code, the biggest structural challenge often isn't the material you choose. It's ensuring that your post holes sunk deep into that sandy soil don't accidentally interfere with an invisible utility line that the town put there decades ago. Protecting that unseen infrastructure is just as vital as protecting your view.